Today, I'm going to show you how to build your very first automation with simple data flows and proper error handling. This is the third video in my n8n course, AI Automations for Absolute Beginners. Make sure you've watched the previous two videos before starting this third video. And real quick, I'm going to recap what we talked about and learned in the last two videos. So remember, our very first session was building your first AI automation, this straight line path here, which is still quite powerful, even though it looks simple. It researched the topic or grabbed a YouTube or TikTok transcript, and then it created a visual carousel or faceless video, and then it posted to Instagram. And the nice thing about this step-by-step linear workflow is high predictability and high reliability. You know exactly what's supposed to happen at each step, and it's easier to debug this. In the second video, we built our very first AI agent. And functionally, this AI agent is capable of doing all the same things as our first workflow, but it's more flexible and adaptable. You do lose a little bit of predictability and reliability, but you gain flexibility and adaptability. Remember how we just talked to the AI agent? Hey, research this topic. Hey, make a tweet card carousel or make a video out of this. The AI agent can ask you, hey, do you want to post to Instagram or do you want to post to LinkedIn? So it was a very back and forth, dynamic, flexible conversation that the AI agent was able to adapt to. But again, you lose a little bit of predictability and reliability because there's a chance the AI agent might choose to do the wrong thing or something you didn't expect. So the reason why I focused on those two tutorials first is because philosophically, there's a very big difference between building a traditional workflow where every step is hard-coded and predictable versus an AI agent. And I really wanted you to understand like how these two paradigms are actually very different. They're not, and they can go hand in hand. You can have traditional workflow with certain parts delegated to an AI agent. So the main difference with that AI agent is it's deciding dynamically what to do based on the information and task you've given it, and also what tools it has access to, what tools it has to accomplish the task you're requesting it to do. So when we were talking to the AI agent, it's analyzing what we're saying, it has memory to remember what we previously asked for, and then it's deciding on the spot, okay, the user asked for this, I'm going to go make a tweet card carousel, I'm going to go confirm with them that this is the contents they want in the carousel, and then I'm going to ask them if they want to post to Instagram or post to LinkedIn. Now, in this third tutorial, we're going to start with the workflow, like over here, but we're going to add data flows and error handling. And this is really important for building robust workflows that don't just break if unexpected things happen. So what I'm going to do first is just talk through some of the changes here, and then we're going to build it out from scratch. So the first thing I changed is I just swapped out the trigger so you can get exposure to different types of triggers in n8n. So this is a schedule trigger, meaning it can run at an interval like once a day or 3 times a day or a specific time per day. And then this is largely the same. So extracting content from a TikTok or YouTube video and then creating a carousel or video. And here's where we're introducing a simple data flow, like an if-else statement, and also some error handling. Okay, so here when I get a visual, normally this should work, but sometimes the visual isn't ready yet, especially if we're creating a video or something that involves a lot of AI images being generated. So this simple data flow is an if statement. So it'll check if the status of the video or carousel is done. Okay, great, then proceed to posting it to Instagram. But if it's not done, we're going to wait a little bit longer and try again to fetch the carousel or video. Okay, and then the very last step here, you might have noticed I've renamed it to Instagram with 3 retries. So what this means is if this node fails, it's going to try again, maximum 3 more times until it succeeds. And you can do cool things as well, so I'm not going to dive into detail here, but you can even set each node to continue even if there's an error, and you can handle that error in different ways. So let's start building this out. So the first thing I want you to do is just drag to copy this first row. So we're going to use this as our base. So copy the clipboard, paste it down here. Let's just move it so it's a little bit more aligned. The second thing I want you to do is disable these workflows. So when you hover over a node, there's a little power button here, and you can deactivate it. So that's not going to run. You can click save at the top. Okay. And I'll deactivate this one as well. We'll just use this as a reference. Okay. So now we need to add that new trigger. Go ahead and click the plus button in the top right corner. Click add another trigger, and then you can see many different ways to trigger your workflow. Let's choose the on a schedule. Okay. So trigger interval is like, how often do you want this to run? Is it like every 5 minutes? Is it every hour, or is it once daily? And then trigger at hour. So at what time will this run? So this right here will run every day at 10 a.m. If you want it more frequent than that, you could separate it by hours. So this, for example, would run every 6 hours. Let's just do every day at 10 a.m. Okay. Set it up over here, make sure to connect it. So this workflow is going to run every day at 10 a.m. You can click to open these, just confirm they should have data in there. So there should be some kind of URL of a TikTok, YouTube, or audio file that's public. Or if you want to use the AI research agent, you can switch it over here. And then for the optional instructions, I just left this in here, summarize in detailed bullet points for an Instagram carousel. Get source should be the same, so it's going to grab the ID from the previous step and go ahead and fetch it. Create visual, just choose the template you'd like here. If you're just testing, I recommend just a text carousel. That way it renders really quickly. For example, quote card carousel with monocolor background. And then remember, the prompt is coming from the previous step. Okay, so you shouldn't have to change anything here. It should be the same. So now the wait step is an interesting part. So before, in the previous video, we would have to like manually adapt this based on how long it would take to create a visual. So if we're creating a video, we know it's going to take way longer than just creating a text carousel. So I'd manually go in here and change it. So what we can do now, we can actually set it to something low, let's say 5 seconds. And now what we're going to do is add a data flow that checks the status of the visual. So go ahead and click plus, type if, or actually go ahead and click plus, and then click here where it says flow. So you can see all of the different data flows and logic available. So filter will remove something that matches a condition. So if you want to filter out a bunch of data, you can use that. We're going to just do a really simple if-else statement. So it's like, if this is true, do this thing. Otherwise, go this other path and do these other things. There are definitely more complex things you can do, like looping over items, merging, etc. But today we're just going to keep it simple with an if statement. So click that. And basically this is asking, what are we checking? If what is equal to what? Okay, so first let's just wire it up. Let's just move it. So it's going to be right after we try to get the visual. So I'm going to delete this. Drag this over here. Okay. So what we're saying here is if the visual is not ready yet, so if this is false, we're going to wait a little bit longer. So you can go ahead and duplicate this node, right click, duplicate. Okay, let's add it here. So if false, oh, actually this should be, this should have been like this. Okay. So if false, okay, then we're going to try again. And let's say we want to wait 5 seconds. So we're going to wait initially 5 seconds. If it's not ready yet, we're going to wait 5 more seconds. Now you may be wondering, like, what do we put here to check? So how this if node works is like, if this parameter is equal to this value, then it's true, meaning we're going to take this path at the top, posting to Instagram. Okay, remember to connect it here. But what is the value? So we need to execute the previous nodes because we don't have any input data yet. So go ahead and click execute previous nodes. Okay, so here when we ran it, so the status was script ready, so it wasn't done. Okay, so we executed the previous nodes and now we see the status. So this is the field we want to check. And since I created the Blotato API, there are actually a couple of different status options. Usually when you're using a third-party tool such as Blotato API, there's API documentation, which will tell you what all the possible values are. So here, for example, I went to open API reference, video, get a single video, okay? And then the possible responses, so completed means it's done, okay? So that's basically the value we're looking for. So if this is equal to completed, then true, otherwise false. So let's execute this again. So it should be false. So you can check this by looking at the right side panel here. So if it was true, you could click true branch and see a bunch of data. Since it's false, you can click the false branch and see a bunch of data. Okay. Okay, so all I did is I clicked execute step again, and now get visual is done. So status is equal to done. So that will be our true statement. Click execute step, and now we should see true over here. So if true, then we're going to post to Instagram. But if it's not done yet, then we're going to wait a little bit longer. Okay, so to test this out, let's change what we're making. So open up, create visual. Let's do something that takes a little bit longer. Okay, so I was just opening up get source and noticed actually it wasn't done either. So what we're going to do to make this automation a little bit more robust is add another wait step here between create and get source. Okay, let's say it's 5 seconds. Boom. I'm just going to slide it in here. Okay. And we actually could do something similar. So like if this status is still processing, okay, then we're going to try again. Actually, let's just do that here. So let's add another if statement. So it'll just get us more practice. So delete that. I'm just going to squish everything together. True. Open that up. So what is the value we care about? If the status is equal to, now I don't know what done is, but so one thing you can do to check the new status is just click execute step again. And then it should show us the updated status. Okay. So if is equal to completed, so just drag that over. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, so the status completed is the one we're looking for. And what we're going to do is go ahead and add that wait node again. Okay. So same. Okay. And what's cool is you honestly don't necessarily need this initial wait, right? If I remove this and just left it like this, which honestly I might do to make it cleaner. So basically when it tries to get the source, if it's not done yet, it's going to wait 5 seconds and try again. Then we're going to create a visual. This one I like to leave a wait in because it usually does take some time to create a visual and I don't want it just looping unnecessarily. So what we're going to do here is change the template. Open up create visual and change the template to something I know is going to take a little bit longer. This will be fun. So this uses Nano Banana Pro 2 to generate a whiteboard infographic style. And I know that this one is going to take like at least 45 seconds, at least. Okay. So let's click save. Okay. And I'm just going to double check is equal to done. This waits 5 seconds. So yeah, you don't have to change this anymore. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So let's try that out. So we added this wait loop. So if it's not done getting the transcript from this TikTok video yet, it's going to wait 5 seconds. And then we're going to create a whiteboard infographic style template, which I know is going to take at least 45 seconds. So this wait node is only 5 seconds, but if it's not ready yet, it's going to wait 5 more seconds and loop again until it's ready. Once the status is done, then it's going to post it to Instagram. Okay. Now, for testing purposes, by the way, since we're going to run this entire flow, I recommend opening up Instagram and scheduling it in advance. That way you can see that everything like scheduled properly without actually posting to Instagram. So that's what I recommend when you're testing this out. Okay, let's click execute workflow. Okay, so here the source was not ready yet. So you can actually see now it's waiting 5 seconds. Okay, the source is ready. Great. So now it's creating the visual. It's waiting 5 seconds. Okay, it's not done yet. So it's went through our false branch. So it's going to wait 5 more seconds. And this will loop around for a while because I know that this particular infographic template using Nano Banana 2 will take a bit longer than the text only carousel template that we were previously testing with. And so while we're waiting, you can actually open up Lotato, okay, and see the drafts being created. So this is the draft that we're creating right now. You see it's generating script. Okay, this one I know takes a little bit, again, because of Nano Banana Pro 2. Oh, okay, great. So that worked with some spelling errors like Claudebot. Okay, personal. This is a pretty nice infographic though. Wow, that looks really nice. Okay, cool. And then if we go back to our workflow, now everything's green, which means it ran. And you can actually see the loops here, how many times it went through this loop. So it went through this extra wait loop 13 times, right? And then it posted to Instagram. So now if we go back to Blotato, remember if you have Blotato open in another tab, it's going to automatically refresh and show you the latest video you're working on. So I didn't have to do anything, but this was the nice infographic. And then if you go to your calendar and see upcoming posts, you should see the text as well as the infographic that we just made here. And you can delete it, right? So it doesn't go out accidentally. Okay. Data flow. Okay, so that was an introduction to a simple data flow. Now we're using 2 if-else statements, and then we have 2 wait loops as well, just to wait until it's finished running. If you wanted to clean this up a little bit, you honestly could remove this wait step, right? You just anticipate that the first get visual step will fail. I personally would probably increase this to something like 15 seconds, so it's not checking like all the time. And then the very last aspect of error handling I wanted to show you is here. So open up this Instagram node. Let's rename it real quick to Instagram with 3 retries. Okay, so what I mean by that is what you've seen so far is the node either succeeds or fails, and that's it. And we have to create this check to see what the status is, if we have to wait or if we have to do anything else. Okay. But within n8n, if you go to settings, you can do things like retry on fail. So here. Now, I personally don't recommend retrying more than 3 times, and I recommend for social media publishing in particular to increase the wait time. You don't want to look like you're spamming the Instagram API. I think 5,000 is the max, so 5 seconds. Okay. And then if it errors out again, you can either stop the workflow or continue using an error output. So I showed you what that looked like earlier. Let me exit out of this so you can see again. So if you decide to continue using an error output, basically there will be 2 branches. So after this runs, it either succeeded, which will be this upper branch, or it failed. And you can handle these scenarios differently. For example, if this succeeds, maybe you want to fetch the published post URL and store it in a Google Sheet or Airtable, right? If it fails, maybe you want to send an email to your team or send a Slack message to your team that something failed. So this is one way to... So this is another aspect of error handling, although I'm not going to dive into it too much today. But here I'm going to change it back to stop workflow. And this is simply going to retry 3 times on fail, waiting 5 seconds between each retry. Okay, so that wraps up learning about simple data flows, right? These if-else statements to check the condition or status of something, and then creating a wait loop to fetch it again, check that it's ready and fetch it again. And then we also briefly talked about how to toggle things like retrying when it fails, maximum number of retries, and you can also do advanced things like use the error output as a different branch. And this is often what I do in my automations. Like I would rather explicitly handle the case of success, and I know it happens when it succeeds, and also explicitly handle a case of failure. Like I'm going to log that failure somewhere, or I'm going to notify myself of that failure. If you enjoyed this tutorial, hit like, hit follow, and drop a comment below. Would love to hear from you.